Hello and welcome to this special interview series on nourishing knowledge, the power of food as medicine. I'm Wanda Malhotra, lifestyle journalist and CEO of Crunchy Mama Box, a platform promoting conscious living. Today's interview is part of a powerful collaboration with Authority Magazine, a medium publication that delves deep into topics that truly matter. Today, we will have the pleasure of speaking with Geri Brewster, a registered dietitian-nutritionist with a whole person approach, which has made her an effective and motivating clinician with positive outcomes. In her 35 years of private practice and corporate practice, she is known to not only change diets, but lives. She won the Excellence in Practice Award and holds advanced certificates in nutrition, health, and weight management. Her expertise is recognized in media outlets like Wall Street Journal, CNN, and the New York Times. This video is a special follow-up to the written interview previously published. For a deeper dive into the complete conversation, follow my column to read the full interview. Now join us for an exclusive interview with Geri Brewster. Hi, Geri. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Hello, Wanda. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be with you.
It's a pleasure. Can you share a memorable experience where your whole foods approach to nutrition had a significant impact on a client's life, particularly in terms of preventing or managing a chronic condition?
Oh my goodness. Wow. So not having been privy to these questions beforehand, I suppose one that might come to mind from many years ago, but a family that I still have a relationship with. Um, it this young child who came to me initially through the early intervention program, so 0 to 3. She was just 18 months when I first met her, and she did have a G tube. She was born with a genetic condition that, while intelligence is normal, it did present a number of multiple neurological effects, primarily around the autonomic nervous system. So, coordinating breathing and swallowing was a challenge and could put her airway at risk. So, she was on a tube feeding, but like many children who are fed through a gastrostomy tube, it's becomes a little more complicated to just be able to deliver a blended food diet like your average meal, just blended up and sent through a tube. And some of the ready-made formulas can present digestive problems. So, because again, everything is very individualized, and our gut, and especially in a developing, a child really in these early years, it's so foundational. We're talking about now, so this goes back well more. This is probably like 25 years ago or more now. Yeah. So before the microbiome project and even the human genome study, right, and all, and bringing all that together to appreciate how influential the gut is to the neurological system, the immune system, the endocrine system, the body as a whole. And of course, a young child doesn't know what they don't know. So, they may be uncomfortable in their own skin, but yet they can't express it. So, everything else in terms of just settling at night, being able to attend and focus, but yet, of course, they need that physical stamina and nourishment to their cells to be able to have all their developmental milestones achieved. So from fine motor skills to gross motor skills, things that we so take for granted, that very often we find either when we're young and have an impact like this, or as we age, or any time in between, whether it's a sports injury or anything else, we unfortunately come to appreciate how challenging it is just to move any part of our body when everything is not well organized and that cellular support isn't there, or there's an injury, right? Whether it's pain that stops us in our tracks or just limited motion or mobility, what have you. So it's very critical what we're eating. Most of the time we blow through our day, we're not really always thinking about what's going in and how it's affecting all of that, right? But now we've come to know so much about pro-inflammatory foods, anti-inflammatory foods, different cytokine storms that can go on in our body, etc. That ripple effect. You can eat something, it may disagree with you. For some people, that disagreement's over in an hour, and for others, it can last for days. So nonetheless, I had the opportunity to work with this family, and I can just tell you, probably you asked about the impact, really specializing the feeding, providing specific nutrients for gastrointestinal support, making sure that intestinal motility was going to be optimized by the combination of macronutrients going in, and all of which will facilitate good bowel mobility and regulation, which is, we know from even when everything is just fine with a young child, if there's that one day where they're a little backed up behaviorally, it impacts them, everything. So that's so important, that comfort, and then that self-soothing, because that helps with all that neuroregulation as well. So we really optimized her diet, and she's done so remarkably well over all these years. And I still meet with her annually after she has her full physical and labs, and we still make tweaks. But she's a remarkable young woman, and because of her condition, she did in fact require different types of surgeries, whether it was for spinal optimization and, and other GI surgeries, recurrent GI surgeries, because as you grow, certain, you know, things need to continue to be corrected. So in just maintaining that sphincter at the base of the esophagus, also needed more surgeries. But we need optimal nutritional support to be able to have optimal surgical outcomes, right? We want to heal well. We want to be able to detoxify all of the anesthesia. Again, these are these things where none of us have the luxury of ever turning our back on our nutritional well-being, but we blow through a lot of days and we don't think about it very much. And we also are of that mindset that, well, I'm going to have the surgery and then it will be better. Not always thinking about the big lift that our cells and our body require. And if we are having just a finite amount of nutrients going in any time, it's got to pick and choose, right? We need nutrients to heal. Some of those same nutrients are the ones required by the immune system to fight infection, right? So we just have to make sure that we're really in that preoperative best nutritional state for best postoperative outcomes. So she did remarkably well, and she's done remarkably well. Very brave. It's not an easy task when your body doesn't always cooperate with your mind, and of course, I shared in the article, I had grown up in that type of circumstance with my mom having multiple sclerosis, another disease where everything's okay in here, but you are body locked to some extent, and your body can't really cooperate or be willed simply by my brain saying, I'm going to move my hand like this because I talk with my hands anyway. So sometimes it doesn't work, but we have to always have that great foundation. So what made me think of her when you asked the question is probably, now I've been in clinical practice for 35 plus years. So I'm going back a lot of years now, but I would say if it was about 15 or so, I happened to run into her with her mom in Bloomingdale's, I think it was. And I happened to be with one of my now very adult children. And when I introduced them, it really brought me to tears, and I was really caught off guard. But she held my son's hand and she said, your mom saved my daughter's life. And I didn't realize, I think, until that moment, how doing my job really could impact someone's life so tremendously. So anyway, didn't expect to answer that in that way, but if I answered the question, that's one that comes to mind. Um, and it has your nutritional status has everything to do with everything. So we can't put it off. Health doesn't just show up later in life. Every single day, our actions, and I'm not saying we're going to be perfect every day, but we have to be aware. We really have to be aware, at least of that balance, right? People always say, "Oh, I know everything in moderation." And I'm like, no, because right now, what we're faced with to eat so very often, none of those choices are great. So if we're moderating a little bit from all of those choices every single day, the compounding effect of not only the inflammatory aspect of the macronutrients themselves sometimes, but unfortunately, too, we know this now in light of COVID because so many areas, I was thinking like really more like the urban dense areas that are like food deserts. There aren't many high quality foods to select from. They're food swamps. Those that there are to select are the choices there are very poor, ultra processed foods, which we know is directly linked to many chronic diseases, the daily consumption of those types of foods. But yet also the same thing might happen in certain rural areas. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm actually even thinking, I think Center for Science and the Public Interest recently asked for, like to write to legislators to require that certain stores that might be more like the dollar type of stores that are providing even food, for a lot of people in rural areas, everything from, it's like a general store. So it's everything from food supplies right through, probably your WD-40 or something. So and hardware. So to really make it a point that healthier quality foods be brought in there, because ultimately, not only do the individuals pay the price, but then as society as a whole and the planet as a whole pays the price because we have sicker people consuming highly processed foods that in that processing makes the planet sicker too. And of course what we consume, you know, from the planet, the planet's hurting, we're hurting. Chronic disease is on such an upswing, and it's nothing to do with age anymore. We have so many young children diagnosed with chronic disease. So anyway, I think I should pause for the next question.
That is so important. The beautiful story combined with how important it is for us to be mindful of what we put in our bodies and what we throw back to the planet. I love that, Geri. Thank you so much. This I hope it brings awareness to a lot of people that what we eat is so important. It's not just, oh, it's okay when, on the weekends or this and that. You need to be mindful. If you're mindful of what you're eating and you're trying to nourish your body and protect the planet, you're on the right track. Correct?
Absolutely. And as I say, to just, for people to not think that it has to be all or nothing. I can appreciate that, it takes a lot to change habits. So when you're in that grab and go mentality, but you don't say, well, I sort of blew it all day. Tonight we'll just grab takeout or something. You go, wow, I kind of blew it all day. Tonight I have to balance it out. And that's what I mean about balance over moderation. I have to balance it out and give my body something really good and nourishing now, because we are, right? As the saying goes, we are what we eats. And that includes plant-based, because the food is getting it all from the soil. So the soil has to be nutrient rich. The animals who eat from the soil, ideally, should then therefore be nutrient rich. But we really are consuming a lot of depleted food from depleted soil and hence depleted animals. So this is why it's so important to have this awareness, because we have hit that tipping point. But the resurgence of really returning to you know, sort of the historical ways. This is now regenerative, for sure, regenerative farming, whether it's animal agriculture or plant. It's got to be much more restorative.
So, given the growing concern about mental health, especially in younger generations, how do you incorporate nutritional strategies into your practice to address mental well being and support conditions like anxiety and depression?
Wow. All right. Super huge topic, very important. And most certainly, I can appreciate very often the place for medication. But unfortunately, many people who I've seen in my practice over so many years, young people with anxiety, depression, attention and learning issues, sensory processing issues, that that very heightened neurological system. Now, of course, we also have had this rise in sensory input and constantly on screens and multiple bombardment constantly, right? So it is hard to turn it all off, and there's a lot of input coming into process. So we've got these environmental factors. We also have the fact that our food supply has really deteriorated in many ways over the decades, and all of that contributes. I'm pausing because I don't want to go down all these different biochemical rabbit holes, so to speak, but we eliminated trans fats as best as possible from processed foods, for example. However, the damage that they have done, there are many, many couples, women, people in their reproductive phase of life who still grew up on those products, which do run a lot of interference with cellular membranes and do create a lot of inflammation in their wake. So, of course, what that's done to a lot of that generation of people who were first generation exposed, but all of that had an influence on our genetic expression and then the genetic expression of subsequent generations. So we do not only need to eliminate some of these foods that were very damaging to our bodies, but then we need to learn how to replete to compensate for those losses. And I feel, unfortunately, there is such a disconnect, especially while we have many much needed medications, which can be effective, but they also need good nutrition to be able to properly function within the body. And you mentioned depression, even many antidepressant drugs are used for anxiety, right? They have that secondary effect, right? Because most of them are in that SSRI, for example, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor drugs, right? Trying to keep that serotonin in the synapse of the brain, right? So that it keeps everybody a little calmer and a little happier rather than, it being taken back up and then, and circulating, right? Between those inhibitory, more calming neurotransmitters and the excitatory neurotransmitters, right? So you don't want all this excitation that could spin you into anxiety and then down into a depression. So we're trying to keep that serotonin in that synapse, and that drug is effective there. But guess what? We still have to be able to make enough serotonin, and we make serotonin from nutrients. So when we're not paying attention to what we're consuming, then you may not have those foundational precursors. So some people say, oh, we tried so many SSRIs and medications for our daughter or our son, or even that own individual. And yet nobody's necessarily asked them what they're eating. Sometimes we're not even eating anything. They leave the house in the morning and they're gone all day long, or and then they might say, well, I'm trying to do intermittent fasting. And I'm like, but your blood sugar is tanking because you're not eating. And when you have low blood sugar, you're going to get anxious also. And then eventually, when you do eat, you're going to want more carbohydrates, and you're not going to be so selective about what you're putting in your body. And then at that point, those foods may be much more inflammatory, which is also going to run interference with your ability to modulate your neurotransmitters and to feel good ultimately from a depression regulation standpoint. So we need it all. You need that beautiful integrative approach. You will need medication, but you need proper nutrition, right? We always led with diets first, even with heart disease, right? Number one for women, right? So it's like we want to be paying attention to our cardiovascular systems. And after menopause, cholesterol levels rise, don't have protective benefits of estrogen. It should always be to diet and lifestyle changes. But very often, we feel that we're caring for ourselves because we do see our doctor, they diagnose it, they give us a prescription. And then with that prescription, we continue with the unhealthy lifestyle habits. So even though the numbers might look a little better, we have come to find out and realize there is still this insidious inflammation that's going on, right? So we do need the whole package. And that is also why in my practice and in the companies that I consult to and with, like Azuluna Foods, which brought us together, it's really about not just saying, here, eat this is more nutrient dense and better for you. It's the why. We're going to work on really educating you and being available for you to understand whether it's the foods that Azuluna is producing from its regenerative farming techniques or anybody else's. The idea is that part of the mission is to do this for the betterment of the planet and the people, right? This is really about very forward moving now to try to move us away from this tipping point in terms of soil, animal husbandry, crops, and human health on the planet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This is valuable information. Very, very valuable. It's crucial for us to know how each food, everything we're putting in our bodies affects our physical health and our mental health.
Mental
Thank
health. Also, what we're eating affects our gut microbiome and the whole gut-brain connection. And even our serotonin receptors are located in our gastrointestinal tract. So even some of the long-haul COVID symptoms are now found to be related to that effect on those receptors post-infection. So again, the stronger that our gut integrity can be, and this is, as I mentioned even before, with regard to the food deserts and the food swamps, and a lot of people in inner city that really suffered during COVID, yes, they may have had higher disease rates associated with inflammation, like obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, but that is a direct result of the foods they are consuming. So, and then, once surviving, there are those then with long haul COVID symptoms. So it is about what we're eating, influencing our microbiome, which then influences the health and well being of our entire body. And that includes our mental state. So everyone suffering with depression and anxiety, it really warrants them having a very solid nutritional care plan. That's self-care, that's nourishing, that's taking that pause every day. What am I having for breakfast today? Where's my day going to bring me? What food choices will I have? Or maybe I need to bring a few items along that are healthy choices. So I'm not subject to just what's out there. And it'll be easier on your pocketbook in the process.
Wonderful. So, in your collaboration with Azuluna Foods, there's a focus on promoting the benefits of regenerative farming practices. How do these sustainable agricultural methods align with your nutritional philosophy, and what role do they play in fostering overall well being?
Wow, you're so good at what you do, Wanda, honestly, because all of your questions just lead into already just the train of thought and things that have that I've already touched on in answering the questions that you selected. So most certainly regenerative agriculture. So Azuluna Foods is focused on regenerative agriculture, and also really the mission is the our pillars are really to then bring, as I said, these healthier foods, and the tenets of a more sustainable lifestyle to people. So, through culinary nutrition, right? We have excellent chefs from Johnson and Wales University. Our culinary research and development kitchen is on the campus of Johnson and Wales. And it's just a wonderful opportunity, learning, teaching opportunity. Now, it is an animal agriculture farm. So chickens, lamb, and pork. And in everything that I already mentioned just momentarily ago about the soil regeneration, right? It's how you rotate the animals on the farm. And the farm is beautiful. People could just go to Azuluna Foods and even azulunafarms.com just to see the overhead. And it's visiting the site will be very inspirational. Um, and so rotating the animals in the different soil pastures and um, where they can forage on under like a canopy of trees and vegetation, and the chickens especially are fantastic just to even all watching all the animals. But uh, the pigs are eating a lot of stuff. The lambs are always at the grass, but just the chickens, the way they can just really consume such a nutrient diverse, rich diet. So these are the animals that go into the Azuluna Foods ready to eat meals that are prepared at our R&D kitchen in Providence, Rhode Island. And we also have a lot of, plant-based meal options available as well. But all of even our meat entrees, when I say meat, the lamb, the pork, and the certainly the chicken dishes. And we also have fish dishes. We have a fantastic um, salmon. So I don't want to get into too many particulars, but again, it's all information on the website. Um, so people don't even realize that pasture raised animals, yes, our salmon is very high in omega-3s, um, but pasture raised animals, we always think of salmon for omega-3s. When those animals are eating grass, they are the same way that the fatty fish get it from the algae in the ocean. The land animals are getting it from the grasses and the greens. They have many more omega-3 new, polyunsaturated fats, anti-inflammatory, great for brain health, modulating inflammation, helping with the circulatory system. And then of course now we can get that also from the chickens, from the lamb, from the pork, as well as higher amounts of fat-soluble vitamins and B vitamins. And from our chickens, we make bone broth. We have our pasture-raised chicken bone broth, which is exceptional. It's delicious. It's cooked for 16 hours. It is a very, it's a labor-intensive production, but it's a labor of love. And it goes back to also not wasting any part of the animal, because there's nutrition to all of the animal. And this is also something to embrace, in this day and age, because we used to just waste so much food, right? So as I talked about the days of trans fats, those were also the days of just plain white chicken breasts, no fat, nothing, right? So we're losing all these essential nutrients that are really the backbone to our neurological systems, right? So again, foundationally, if we were sort of born at a deficit from these nutrients because maybe our parents weren't consuming all of that stuff, right? So, and then it just sort of goes forward. So we just kind of wind up with less of what we really need for as hardy and robust um, neurological system, mental health system, as well as immune system. See, we're kind of coming full circle now, right? About how the gut is related to these three areas. And these are three areas that we see with so many young people: anxiety and depression, the neurological, the immune, a lot of autoimmune diseases, a lot of chronic disease related to immunity, more younger manifestation of these autoimmune conditions. And then even the endocrine system. So we know there are a lot of young women with irregular periods and polycystic ovarian syndrome. We know that there are a lot of couples that struggle with fertility issues. There is decreased sperm count. This is all because if what's going into us isn't so good and hardy, then what is going to come out of us then for that next generation? It's going to be impacted, right? I know we are head of the food chain here and think we are so smart about everything, and we are. However, when it came to food, we got kind of disconnected from it so much. It's like we don't even think that we need it anymore. And yet it is now this era of regenerative farming and food as medicine, because we need this nutrient-rich diet, because the more stress your body's under, the greater the call for nutrients and antioxidants, right? So the bone broth is rich in amino acids that can come together and produce glutathione, our body's significant antioxidant made from the glycine, the glutamine, the cysteine, those amino acids in the bone broth. The bone broth is rich in collagen for our gut health, our connective tissue. That collagen, part of that is gelatin, which we need for our hair, skin, and nails, right? So we can radiate and look beautiful, but we don't want to just look beautiful. We want to feel beautiful, right? So that takes more than just the outside cosmetic stuff. That is really this foundation of nutrition. You get a lot of great nutrition in the bone broth. You get, people take for their bones and joints, right? Glucosamine and chondroitin and hyaluronic acid. Guess what? It's in the bone broth. So, it's really powerful, and you can use it. You don't have to just drink it straight up. I love it straight up, especially in the wintertime, but I also add it to anything. One pot meals, if you've got meat and vegetables, or chicken and vegetables, or fish and vegetables, and you can enhance it with the bone broth. This time of year with Thanksgiving coming, you can use it foundationally in a lot of your dishes, right? Whether you're making any kind of stuffing or a gluten-free stuffing, right? You need a broth to wet that, right? Because you don't always have enough drippings. There's never enough drippings from a turkey for those that are eating turkey. And again, I appreciate and support all of my plant-based clients. And yeah, there is reason for that, but there is also, our bio-individuality. And we have a lot of people who are omnivores and they want to eat, a well-rounded, nutrient-dense diet. So, and Azuluna is a great, you know, stop on the way there on that whole journey. But the farm has, been developed using all these regenerative farming techniques for the animals. So there is all they're happy animals, humanely treated, humanely slaughtered, and provide delicious, tender, nutrient dense meats and a fantastic, super nutrient dense bone broth. And all of this every day can just help, enhance. And all of the ready to eat meals come with a beautiful complement of vegetables, either locally that can be sourced during the spring and summer months in New England, or they are all, purchased to specifications and include a lot of all the organic available vegetables at hand, so that you can get those extra plant-based antioxidants, colorful phytonutrients that we get from our fruits and vegetables and herbs and spices and all of this. You just feel good. You're not just eating just sort of, beige food.
So we are going to our last question. The Sustainable Wellness Program at Azuluna aims to educate and empower individuals and families to make healthier lifestyle choices. Can you provide examples of how this program addresses the challenges people face in adopting a sustaining healthy habit? I know you already answered a lot about Azuluna, but just this sustainable wellness program is something I'm sure our readers want to know about.
I'm so happy to talk to you about this. So this again was really born out of the desire to bring more information to our clientele, and to support families and to support individuals, right? So we have it's a registered dietitian nutritionist led webinars and chats, and we also have available one-on-one, personalized consultation. But we do provide a self-directed, self-guided, but we're always there, right? But program 5 weeks that really help an individual develop healthy lifestyle habits. As I said, stepping away from that all or nothing. And so really helping individuals who may have an illness, chronic disease, and want to really know now, what do I need to do to begin to have a healthier lifestyle and eating habits, because it can all be so overwhelming and confusing, right? So that's what I said. I have lots of people who have good intentions, but then they might wind up affecting their behavior, their health in another way, like if they're not going to eat until way late in the day because they're trying to shrink their eating window, but then they've got low blood sugar, and then they're, and that's affecting their anxiety and their mood. So we touch on all of that in our weekly webinars, right? Because we're really taking information that everybody can understand and appreciate. But we've got, so people with their own particular health issues, as well as families, and then also even some, corporate or health groups, right? You have a small company, and a lot of people are, I hear this over and over again, like, I have so many employees that are out sick all the time, or we need you to come in and speak to our, but it's more than just one lecture, right? For people to get it. So this is really an opportunity for people to have a foundational roadmap for 5 weeks that addresses everything from, tell me what to eat, or here, this is what's in my refrigerator, this is what's in my pantry, or I'm so busy, and how do I, we have meal plans, we have grocery lists, we have a lot of how-tos to make it easier. But again, it's not just to eat this, don't eat that. It's explaining really the rationale behind all the recommendations, because if you're educated on it, you can make better choices, instead of just, oh, it's not on my list of things to eat, so I guess I'll just eat anything. Nope. If you understand the rationale, you'll be able to pick something in between, and that is that balance. But it's also addressing good sleep hygiene and practices for individuals, for families, explaining the connection between food and circadian rhythms. Um, so everything from what you're eating to sleeping to exercise, and just, kind of exercise snacks, right? Sometimes we need to snack during the day on food, but sometimes you can do an exercise snack, and just giving really just what we believe and have seen and hope for everyone. Just those day to day, one day at a time ways of developing a sustainable, that is why it's a sustainable wellness program, to go along with sustainable farming and food production and lifestyle changes. It has to be, again, something sustainable. We can't wait till we're sick to make the change. We don't want to, right? We don't want, I always use dental analogies, right? So I said it, if you could see, we see our teeth, and you have beautiful teeth and smile, and it's wonderful. But if you could see what else is going on inside your body, right? The way you see your teeth, you'd want to be paying more attention to it. But it's the same thing I say even with regard to the dental analogy with families, that every day you get them to brush their teeth, and it's not always easy, and they need to do it twice a day, but you do your best. And that's the same thing with the focus on the healthy foods. You do your best. It is a practice. Anything worth this life and having not just a good lifespan, but a great health span during this life. I don't want to live long enough to spend all those days just going to the doctor, right? You want to you want to hedge your bets, right? And the best way to do that, uh, the biggest bang for your healthcare dollar is what you're putting in your mouth, right? So now we're hoping that eventually the food as medicine and medical, food prescriptions, diet prescriptions, that some of that will get reimbursed, and that there will be changes now with this latest White House conference on food and hunger and health, that we might see changes to the farm bill, where more fresh produce, as opposed to just, the corn and soy and grains that get turned into so much processed food, right? We want to see the farmers that are really producing nutrient dense, crops, get a little bit more subsidy, so that then that can be passed on to individuals, and on and on and on. But so we all start one day at a time. And so the same way we're as Azuluna Foods and Azuluna Farm. Azuluna serves as a hub farm, by the way. It is in the area, it will support smaller spoke farms. So that will raise the chickens for the eggs, because we also have eggs, fantastic eggs, nutrient dense eggs that are available in some of the Whole Foods in the New England area. So we support those smaller hub farms with all of these regenerative, sustainable processes, so that they can participate and feel supportive, right? So all these collaborations, because it's this, our CEO, Ken Rappaport, always likes to use the acronym ICE, right? It's the individual, and then it's the community, and then it's the earth, right? ICE. So I feel like it's hard to be able to pull this all together. We've covered so much, but it's the sustainable wellness program is very beneficial. It's easy, you can do it at your own pace, but then we are right there behind you, through our platform, through a chat, through then live weekly webinars, which then we do record if you can't make it, so you can still get a copy of it, on specific topics. But these are just things that are relevant and make it make sense, because we see a lot of splashy stuff. Well, we get a lot of our information now on social media, but so many of my clients come to me so confused about it all, right? So this is just like a 101, a nice foundation, and really giving you the tools that you need to be able to live a more healthful life.
Jerry, this was so valuable. I love
Mm.
the program. I love the community outreach, the holistic approach to nutrition, to our body, to our planet. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us. And we wish you only continued success on your great work.
Thank you so much, Wanda. This has been a pleasure. I put my glasses on so I can see you more clearly for the very end of this. Really enjoyed this conversation with you. And I hope that all of your subscribers enjoy it as well.